Gothic Architecture by Jernigan. The term Gothic. The term Gothic refers to the style of visual arts and culture that first developed in the Éon de France. Gothic art was originally called the French style. The Italians gave this style its name. The Italians preferred classical style, so they thought the Gothic barbaric and identified it with the most notorious of the barbarian tribes, the Goths. Thus the style was labeled Gothic. The Gothic style. The Gothic style developed out of the Romanesque. Romanesque buildings are broad and massive and characterized by semicircular arches, thick walls, and closely spaced supports. Gothic buildings have a soaring quality. The vertical height for Gothic buildings are constantly emphasized and the walls were thin. Gothic architecture was confident and daring. Structural innovations. Gothic architecture had many structural innovations that characterized this style. These innovations helped transform churches, cathedrals, and castles. They allowed them to literally reach new heights and tower the skies, which was perfect for churches and cathedrals because it was reaching to the heavens. Pointed arches. The pointed arch was a defining internal characteristic of the Gothic architecture. Its significance was both practical and decorative. The pointed arch effectively distributed the force of heavier ceilings and bulkier designs. These arches also allowed for much more vertical height. The vaulted ceiling. The vaulted ceiling was an innovation from the pointed arch. Irregular vaulted ceilings helped spread force and weight from the upper floors. The distribution of force from the vaulted arches made it possible for them to be built in different shapes and sizes. Flying buttresses. The flying buttress is the defining external characteristic of the Gothic architecture. Flying buttress project outward on the exterior of the building and can't be seen from inside. The flying buttress spread the weight of the new design in taking weight off the walls and transferring force directly to the ground. The ribs. Ribs would help concentrate the weight of the vaults at certain points. The ribs made it possible to eliminate the wall from these points. The Royal Abbey. The Gothic style began at the Royal Abbey of Saint Denis, located north of Paris. The first church on the site was built in 475 in honor of Saint Denis. Parts of the Abbey of Saint Denis that helped begin the Gothic style was built under Abbot Suger. The first large and truly Gothic building was served as the prototype for other Gothic structures. The facade of Saint Denis was the first to synthesize monumental architecture. Notre Dame in Paris. The Cathedral of Notre Dame de Paris is located in the heart of Paris. Construction of the Notre Dame started in 1161. It was first finished in 1235, but reconstruction began almost immediately. The vaulting of the choir was redone, flying buttresses were doubled, and the transepts were rebuilt. All this remodeling took several decades. This facade is a masterpiece of balance, and the entire facade is simply one large square. The Notre Dame in Chartres. The Cathedral of Notre Dame in Chartres is an amazing structure which contains sparkling stained glass and begins the High Gothic period. Chartres Cathedral was intended to be a terrestrial palace for Mother Mary. It was built on the highest part of the city in order to bring it closer to heaven. Chartres was said to be protected by Mary and became an extremely popular pilgrimage site. Chartres is the first masterpiece of the High Gothic, and Chartres is 121 feet high and 422 feet long. Saint Chapel in Paris. During the middle of the 13th century, a new Rayonnette style of Gothic architecture had begun to emerge. In this style, stone tracery divisions between areas of glass and rose windows, and were made thinner and even more intricate. The Saint Chapel looks like an enormous reliquary and is extremely small. The upper chapel was dedicated to the Holy Crown of Thorns and the Holy Cross, and the windows of the Saint Chapel included a great number of coronation scenes. Saint Macula in Rouen. This is a small parish church, and it used a flamboyant Gothic style. The flamboyant Gothic style was the final phase in the development of Gothic architecture. It was designed in 1434 by Pierre Robin. It's called flamboyant because of the flame-like curving stone tracery. The Saint Macula is delighted in delicacy and complexity. Gothic architecture outside France. Gothic architecture didn't just stay in France, it branched out to other countries, and they all modified it to their own taste. Some countries that used this style was England and Italy. Salisbury Cathedral. Early English Gothic was represented by Salisbury Cathedral. It was built between 1220 and 1258 by Nicholas of Ely. The Salisbury is low and wide and has really no emphasis on height. English cathedrals are usually entered by a porch and on the side of the nave or on the transept. Westminster Abbey, London. The ultimate example of English vaulting is in the Westminster Abbey in London. The chapel of Henry VII was by architects Robert and William Virtue. The most remarkable feature is the ceiling. They use a technique called Van vaulting. This helped give it a look that denied both logic and gravity.